Yo, what's going on, guys? Trey back again here to bring you another video. This is going to be my second video in my segment of Career in Reviews. So I started with Fedor the Last Emperor Emelianenko. Did that one about last week, and so moving on from there, I decided, well, who else should I start with next, or who should I go to next? And it became pretty obvious that there's two guys I really want to do before everybody else. The first guy, who just retired, pretty much last month or a month ago, is of course Brock Lesnar. And then after this video, I may do one on Tito Ortiz, because I think he's had a very interesting career, and he's almost at the end of his rope now, so it makes sense to do Tito. And then there's some other ones that obviously are going to be retiring soon, and other guys that I can do career in reviews on. So yeah, this one's going to be about Brock Lesnar. It should be kind of short, because his career wasn't as long as a lot of the other guys, who've been in MMA for a while and retired. So 5-3, he finished off his career. Was at a time thought of as the baddest man on the planet. I mean, they even used that title. I think that was half to mock Fedor, because in Affliction, they called Fedor the baddest man on the planet, and then the UFC started doing it and started saying it about Brock, and so half of that was kind of tongue-in-cheek to make fun of Fedor and that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's take from the top. So my first experience with Brock Lesnar when I was younger was in the WWE. That was the first time I ever saw him, got to know who he is, what he's about, that kind of stuff. He was we're not going to talk too much about fake wrestling, but he was the type of guy that he didn't say too much at the beginning. He didn't talk too much. He just kind of came in and fake beat people's asses. But I remember, the first time seeing him and stuff, like, just thinking to myself, like, wow, this guy is huge. And, toned, too. I mean, obviously, he was probably taking some steroids and growth hormone at that time, and you could tell just from how dense he was then compared to now. I mean, weighing just under 300 pounds. I mean, he's like F5 in the Big Show and breaking the ring and all this different stuff. Like, the guy was, he was humongous back in the day when he was in his physical prime. Absolutely huge. And he's got a weird build on him. He doesn't have a bodybuilder build. He's disproportionate in a lot of ways. And what I mean by that is that bodybuilders, they try to keep everything in proportion with their body. They try to have their chest to be, so many inches, around, and their arms to be so many, everything should be in good proportions with one another. You don't want one part of you to become too big to the point where, the others don't match it. Otherwise, that could be a problem when you compete, in their beauty contests and all that stuff. So, but Brock's, I remember seeing him, his chest and his traps were ridiculously oversized. So, I mean, probably when he was training, he was probably taking some growth hormone when he was doing his, and he was doing obviously a lot of bench, a lot of exercises that would exercise the pectorals and the traps, because he was ridiculously huge in those two areas. And later on in his career, you could see, even before the match with Alistair Overeem, you look at his traps then, and it's nowhere near what it was at a couple years before that. So obviously he had lost a lot of muscle mass. People were saying that he looked smaller against Alistair, and he was saying, no, I'm not. And he showed his his arm and that kind of stuff in the press conference. And I mean, when you see that, yeah, okay, he is still big, but is he as big as he was? I think he was starting after the diverticulitis and everything. I think he was starting to lose muscle mass. He was, and that was a big part of Brock Lesnar's fighting style, because what did he used to do? He used to use his NCAA Division I wrestling, background, champion background, to take guys down and just pound the shit out of them. And in a cage, it is ridiculously effective. I mean, when you look at wrestlers all throughout the history of mixed martial arts and the UFC, for example, we've always had guys like Randy Couture, Mark Coleman, Kevin Randleman, Chael Sonnen, and the list goes on and on and on and on of great wrestlers who, their game is basically take you down and beat the snot out of you and either win a decision or, pound you out. The thing about Brock is that he's so big and so strong. His fists are so huge, like lunchbox-sized fists, Randy Couture said when he got hit by one of them. that he'd just take guys down, and with his long arms, he'd go into half guard or even through the guard and just, just wail on guys like a big monkey with monkey punches. It didn't matter. Just these fists are so huge, they're just hitting guys and just knocking them out. Like Randy Couture, I remember when he knocked Randy Couture down from the I think it was a right straight, or hit him behind the ear, and then when he got him down, he started monkey fisting him, and that was it, man. That was such a huge, just a crazy upset there. So yeah, so first experience was with him in the WWE. Got to see him, got to see, his physique and everything. And, I started, fizzling out on WWE and that stuff as I got older. Some people still watch it, and there's not a knock against any guys who like it. I understand it's got its thing, and people do like it. There's nothing wrong with that. But, I didn't really. And then when I heard he was coming into MMA, I was like, wow, holy shit, he's going to come into MMA. Watched his match against Min Soo Kim online. The first time I saw him fight was then, and like pretty much right away, took him down, and just beat the shit out of him, man, with those freaking gorilla fists of his. And then, of course, right after that, he got into the UFC, and he had the first match against Frank Mir. Man, were those exciting matches against Frank Mir. He was beating the crap out of Frank Mir. That was supposed to be a match. He was supposed to lose that match, and instead of, he did lose, but I mean, he was destroying Frank Mir up to the point where Frank Mir got that, knee bar? Yeah, the knee bar on him, and that was an exciting fight. Very good against Heath Herring. This is where we got to see Brock really start to come into his own. I mean, he beat the shit out of Heath Herring. Oh man, he put a whooping on him, something horrible. I remember this one, and I was like, okay, Heath Herring's done. And Heath Herring has not fought since then. I think he broke an orbital bone in Heath Herring's face, but don't quote me on that because I'm not sure. But I think Brock did. I think he broke an orbital bone, and Heath Herring since then has not fought again, and I don't think he's ever going to fight again either. I mean, that was one of the worst beatings. Fedor beat Heath Herring's ass. But Brock also beat Heath Herring's ass. Heath Herring just had man, he did not have the best career. He just, he's a tough guy though, man. He never quit. He took so many ass whoopings from different guys like Brock and Fedor and many others too. I mean, just wow. So when that happened, we got to see that Brock Lesnar is for real. He's for real. He's not, he's not a WWE fake fighter anymore. He's here. He's ready to actually, kick some guys' asses, and he's got a game that, guys are going to have trouble with, because stopping his takedown is not easy. He's humongous, and he's got, the best wrestling in the heavyweight division, pretty much, or, some of it. Then he got the title shot against Randy Couture. This is what I was talking about earlier. So in this one, he was a huge underdog. Everybody expected Randy to win. I mean, anybody you ask, they're like, "Oh, Randy's going to win that. Of course, he's going to win that." Randy was on a winning streak. He beat Tim Sylvia. He beat Gabriel Gonzaga in very impressive fashion. Both of them. I mean, he outstruck Tim Sylvia. He slammed. I remember the slams Randy put on Gonzaga. Awesome. I got to do a career interview for Randy too. So yeah, but then we all thought that, okay, Brock's this huge guy, just like Gonzaga, humongous guy, Tim Sylvia. Randy's going to find a way to beat him. Good old Randy, Captain America's going to do it. He's going to beat him. He's going to find a way to do it. He's going to use his dirty boxing and all this craziness, and he's going to find a way to beat him. And this was a very interesting fight to watch. It was heavy in the wrestling. The first round, I remember, it was just like counter after counter after counter after counter. These guys countering back and forth with their wrestling, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And then eventually, I remember Brock. Now, Randy did get some takedowns too, but then Brock, I remember one he stepped over against the cage, and then I think did he throw a whizzer on him or something? Anyway, he took him down. I forget exactly what happened, but basically, pretty much Brock's wrestling was a little bit better than Randy's. I mean, it was close, but it looked like Brock was getting the best of the wrestling. And then the second round came around, they started getting tired, and that's when Brock used his boxing and got Randy with a real good one over the back of the ear, and took him down and used those lunchbox-sized fists and just pounded him out like with the monkey punches. And that was surprising, man. And at this time, people still didn't like Brock Lesnar. Generally, people did not like him. People were booing him. People were like, "Oh, he's a fake fighter." They hated it. They hated the fact that this guy from the WWE came in the UFC and was beating the shit out of UFC legends. like Randy Couture. And yeah, Heath Herring is a legend too from Pride. Even though a lot of people don't know him, he is a legend. Okay, you know, you could say that he's a legend for sure. Yeah, so people didn't really like him too much at that time, and you know, became UFC heavyweight champion then. Now, here's where things, I think right around here is where Brock was at his best. He fought Frank Mir again, and this time he put an ass whooping on Frank Mir, like one I'll never forget. He gave Frank Mir the worst beating of Frank Mir's career. There's no question about it. I mean, when he got him, like, he took him down, and I remember Frank got off a pretty good knee on one of the takedowns, but Brock finished the takedown, was able to get him down and just beat him and beat the snot out of him. Was able to avoid the submissions and got his quote-unquote revenge on Frank Mir. Now, I would be so interested to see another match between Frank Mir and Brock Lesnar now, because since then Frank Mir has put on, like, you know, I don't know, 30, 40 pounds of muscle, something crazy. He's blown up. Like, you know, he's huge now. So I'd like to see that again. It's not going to happen. I don't think Brock's going to come back, but I'd love to see it again. Anyway, so that was just super exciting to see him do that against Frank. And this is the one where after he beats him, he gets up in the camera, and he's spitting, and there's out of his mouth, and he's yelling and shouting, and Dana White didn't like it. After the fight, Dana White told him, "You can't do that anymore." I loved it. I thought it was awesome. Like, look at this guy. He's crazy, you know? And it didn't seem like an act either. Like, I know he was in the WWE and stuff like that, but I believe when Brock Lesnar was doing that, he honestly felt that way. It was genuine. I thought it was genuine. I didn't think it was an act. You know, when he was mad like that and he was doing that, that to me felt real, because I think he really doesn't like Frank Mir personally. I really believe he does not like Frank Mir at all. Because of the stuff, Frank Mir's well, okay, I don't want to come off wrong and say the wrong thing here. Frank Mir is incredibly intelligent, okay, and he is incredibly confident, and he speaks very intelligently, and he's got a lot of confidence in himself, and sometimes he comes off as pompous. You know, once in a while he comes off as pompous. Not all the time, but you guys know what I'm talking about. I love Frank Mir. Don't get me wrong here. I'm not bashing Frank Mir. It's just sometimes he comes off a little pompous. It's just the way it is. He can't help it. It's just how it comes out, the things he says, how they come out. That's just how it is. But anyway, I really believe that Brock Lesnar hated Frank Mir. I really do. I still think he does. I really do. I don't think it was an act. You know, I don't know. Maybe you guys disagree, but to me, it felt real when he was, you know, doing all that stuff, and I loved it. I don't know why Dana White was like, "Don't do that anymore. You can't do that. This is real. You know, you can't do that stuff, unsportsmanlike or whatever." But this is when Brock Lesnar became huge. After he did that, people were like, "This guy's crazy, you know, he's beating guys, and like, look at him, he's a warrior, he's a maniac, you know, people don't even want to fight him," and all this. This is when he became huge, like the baddest man on the planet. And right about here is when I think he started to decline. So between Randy and Frank Mir, I think Brock Lesnar was at his prime. And then after this fight, he started to decline because of his diverticulitis. Nothing, you know, like, when you're eating like that and you got to be 300 pounds, you know, you're huge, you're eating like 300 grams of protein a day, you know what I mean? Like all this stuff, maybe not enough fiber, maybe not enough, you know, veggies and the other things you need to digest that kind of protein, because he's eating so much to be so big. You know, things happen. You know what I mean? Bodybuilders get this stuff all the time. Bodybuilders have trouble with their digestion, and just because the amount they're eating is absolutely crazy. It's just, it's so much food. It's just insane. So, you know, unfortunate. And, you know, another thing, too, is that we don't really know if Brock was ever the best in the world. They said he was the baddest man on the planet, but the reality is we don't know, because the thing is that, you know, other guys were in Strikeforce at the time. We had Fedor was still kicking around before he started losing. We had Alistair Overeem. We had Josh Barnett, Bigfoot Silva, Verdum. There's so many other guys that you don't know. Would he have beaten them all? Who knows? Was there even a best guy? Who knows? You know, I think Josh Barnett would have been a bad matchup for Brock, because Josh Barnett's wrestling would have been able to, you know, outdo Brock's wrestling probably, or just cancel it out. And then it would have been a striking contest, and obviously probably Josh Barnett's better at striking. So who knows if Brock was ever the best in the world? It's really, really hard to say, but you know, definitely was the baddest man on the planet at the time, the UFC heavyweight champion. Here's where it started to go down. Shane Carwin almost beat him, really close. The referee almost stopped it a bunch of times. Brock was able to survive it, come back, UFC 100. This was a humongous comeback from behind victory. Or no, sorry, this was UFC 116. This was one of the best UFCs of all time. I remember this one. What a come from behind victory. Brock showed his evolution as a fighter, got that arm triangle choke on Shane Carwin, choked him out the second round after he'd become exhausted. Yeah, I mean, those huge muscles on these big guys takes a lot of fuel, a lot of oxygen, and they're going to get gas. It's just how it is, you know. They're going to gas out if they throw, you know, 400 punches in a round or 300 punches or whatever Shane Carwin threw in that first round. So that was unbelievable. At that point, he was 5-1, man, 5-1. So, you know, that was awesome to see Brock Lesnar on top defending it. We haven't had a guy defend the championship like that for a long time. Since Randy, and, you know, before that, I don't even remember in the UFC who was heavyweight champion. Since the days of Fedor, nobody really showed dominance like Randy and Brock did. Now, here's where everything went downhill. So I think his illness here really started to play a factor. He fought Kane. It was a weird fight. He came out charging at Kane and, like, right away trying to take him down. And I just felt like, this is weird. Like, something's not right here. This feels weird. You know, why is he rushing it so much? He looks like he's nervous, or he's maybe not nervous, but he's just, he seems like, you know, I don't know. Something's not right with Brock. And the thing about Brock is he never makes excuses. He never tells people what's going on. He always says, I feel great, yada, 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 until he's calling in sick because he can't fight because of his diverticulitis. So we don't know, you know, if 2 years before that, Kane would have beaten Brock. I don't know. I can't say a year or 2 years before that Kane would have done it. It's, you know, his diverticulitis was there. Who knows? Maybe he was 100%. There's no way to really know. But I personally feel like he wasn't. Even though there's really no way to know for sure. So loses to Kane, gets the surgery done, comes back against Alistair, and he didn't look himself to me. He looked smaller. He looked weaker. He, you know, they said he was working on his cardio or whatever, but I don't believe that. I think after his operation, he felt like, he said he felt good and he was ready and everything like that. I don't think he was. I think he knew that he wasn't the same fighter that he was before. I think he knew that, you know, because when it's so easy to tell your strength, because all you do is you get on a freaking machine, a bench, or you start doing any compound exercises with weights, and you know exactly how strong you are. You know, you say to yourself, okay, well, a year ago, 2 years ago, I was benching, you know, let's say Brock's case, 400 pounds, right? Or I was squatting, you know, I don't know, like, are his legs that big? I don't know. 600 pounds, 800 pounds, I don't know. Who knows? But now I'm only able to do 70% of that, 80% of that. You know, it's easy to tell. So, but he said he was good and everything like that. I don't know, man. You know, to me, he didn't seem like the same guy he was a couple years ago. It could have been because he was fighting Alistair. I mean, you guys know Alistair is my favorite fighter right now. So, you know, seeing Alistair just put it to him like that. And then he announced his retirement. Some rumors at this point, whether or not he'll go back to the WWE. I personally don't think he's going to come back and fight. I don't think he has a reason for it. He's already been the champion for years. The heavyweight division right now is nasty. He's never going to be champion again, probably. Even if he comes back, his health has been at risk. He's got more money than he needs. You know, as a farmer, you don't need that much money, and this guy's loaded. So, you know, he's probably worth, I don't know, but maybe 20 million or something. Who knows, right? He's loaded. He's probably the second highest grossing mixed martial artist of all time, just next to Fedor, just under Fedor. I think he's probably number 2 for getting paid the most of everybody, just under Fedor. You know, a wonderful career, an entertainer, you know, very entertaining to watch him fight. It was always a big thing when Brock was fighting. Everybody got excited, like, yeah, because he's kind of like a freak show, but he's not a freak. He's an actual athlete, but he's a freak athlete. You know, he's huge, and he just does things that other guys, like, I remember against Heath Herring, he actually speared Heath Herring in the fight. Like, he literally speared him. I was like, this is unbelievable. He just threw like a spear on Heath Herring. I'd never seen this in MMA before. And he, you know, you go back and watch this, you know, he spears him. Heath Herring went down. I think he rolled, and Brock Lesnar comes freaking charging like a bull and spears right into him, man. Just exciting, exciting stuff. So, unfortunate that we won't know, you know, much about his health. He doesn't talk much in interviews and stuff. He doesn't say anything. So I'd like to hear from Brock if he was, how he was feeling throughout his career. I'd like to hear, like maybe if they do a documentary or something, look back on his career and see, when was he at the best shape? When was his diverticulitis really causing him to become weaker? Because such a big part of his game was his strength. He's so strong. He'd take these guys, throw them around like rag dolls, take Frank Mir, throw him on his back, and just pound him into oblivion. Just a monster. So that's my career in review for Brock Lesnar, guys. What a short but exciting career. One of my favorite mixed martial artists of all time, probably. A great entertainer, just a freak show of a man. Very exciting. I hope you enjoy this. Next time, we're probably going to be looking at Tito Ortiz, maybe Randy Couture. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Later, guys. This is Trev saying peace.